I now invite Mr. Jesoni Naga to deliver the address on behalf of the graduates. Mr. Naga.
The Chancellor, Her Excellency, the President of the Republic of the Marshall Islands, Dr. Hilda Heine, the Pro-Chancellor and Chair of the Council of the University of the South Pacific, Mr. Winston Thompson and Mrs. Winnie Thompson, the Vice-Chancellor and President of the University of the South Pacific, Professor Paul Alawalia, Honorable Ministers and senior officials of the Fijian government, ambassadors and members of the Diplomatic Corps, Your Excellencies, heads of regional and international organizations, members of Council, Senate, and their committees, members of the University of the South Pacific Senior Management Team, graduates, their families and friends, members of staff and students, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. At this point, I would like to please request the indulgence of my able fellow graduates to rise to their feet. Please turn to your left and take a bow. Now please turn to your right and take a bow. And finally, to the front for a final bow. Thank you. You may be seated. Nisambula Binaka, my name is Jesoni Naga, and I hail from the village of Nayoti, perched on the rocky hill of Yale in the Kandavo Islands, with maternal links to Tavuki, also in Kandavo. Almost 2 decades ago, I learned at a high school retreat that education is a process of bringing the adult out of a child. And this complex structure of reaching some level of maturity would not be possible for the people you have just honored. When you hear the phrase, it takes a community to raise a child, that cannot be any further from the truth for anyone that was raised up in the Pacific Islands. And the learning environment here at USP is no exception. I reiterate that we need to take time to step back and acknowledge the people that have played pivotal roles in either close proximity or from afar in our journey to reaching this point. To the parents who are with us today to witness your child's achievement, to the grandparents, aunts, uncles, our educators, companions, friends, spouses, single parents who work tirelessly to put food on the table and put their kids through school, to our brothers and sisters who face challenges in silence out there in the region to meet assignment deadlines despite technical difficulties and other factors that may be out of their own control. We honor, congratulate, and commend you for your perseverance. Congratulations, fellow graduates. We have all reached the starting line. Yes, this is a starting line, because it is from this day forward that your newly found or continued dreams will continue and slowly take shape. All those times spent studying all night, which really accounts for 5% of reading, 5% paraphrasing, 10% writing, 20% uploading, deleting, and editing post Turnitin submission, and 60% of catching up with the Game of Thrones. It's really paid off. In the past, we had given too much credit to noodles as a source of student life sustenance. But today, I pay tribute to the natural resources on campus, to the wuni moli for the enrauni moli, for the zomboy or lemongrass, to the betel nuts, and those poor chili plants. Their involuntary sacrifice was not in vain. But I hope at this point that we have learned the importance of sustainable living by replanting what we take. Then there are spaces like the Whatever Bar, where important friendships are forged and where you get to hear for the first time the voices of those quiet classmates. back when it was called CRC, it was also a great marshalling area for some of us who had seemed to lost our way to our scheduled tutorials. For those of you who have found creative ways to get extra marks through fun USP activities as volunteers, kudos. And those of you who have volunteered knowing there'll be a great amount of food and drinks at the end, great job. That's survival. For our contribution to the performing arts, visual arts, spoken word, innovative science competitions, debates, quizzes, sports, environmental and humanitarian fight, know that your legacy sets a high standard for your respective communities to work towards and in the hopes of eventually surpassing them. To the circumstances that tested us along the way, and sometimes quite unbearably, we acknowledge you as a permanent building block to our current and future triumphs. That piece of paper you hold in your hand is not only symbolic of your ability to successfully complete academic programs, but it is a remarkable indication of your maturity to communicate and put into practice the years of classroom and lived experience through higher education, especially in education from an institution that is a melting pot of various ethnic and cultural backgrounds. And if you are sitting here today and have neglected to learn at least 2 cultures outside of your own, you'll have to enroll next semester to make sure you do so. As a performing artist and as a working student that have worked in the area of Pacific contemporary dance, I would like to use this platform to encourage you and prospective students to develop your talents. So often, people that have been brave enough to make career out of their passions for the arts or have continued to master their skills have been labeled as less academically inclined. But please, take a look at some of the teachers up front who are renowned for their contribution to Pacific arts and culture. Take a look at the members of the choir, whom without their talents and time, our graduation would not be this spectacular. Take a look at the bold, emerging, and established entrepreneurs of fashion whose works have even triggered academic discussions. And then there are the Pacific visual artists who have exhibited extensively around the world. I applaud you, and I challenge the rest of us to develop what truly distinguishes us from each other. Over the course of my time at USP, I have learned 5 key factors to maximizing your professional output and in the same light, keeping your sanity in check. The 6-letter acronym, REWARD, is a culmination of what I hope will provide you with tools as you step into your respective fields. Reinforce. Reinforce the value of your academic qualifications by getting any type of work experience, or even volunteer at various organizations. Gather friends and initiate activities like environmental restoration, humanitarian work, providing capacity building for marginalized groups, or even setting up a neighborhood watch for your communities. When you reinforce that sort of work ethic and enthusiasm earlier on, you do 2 things. One is that it builds and further strengthens your interpersonal skills, which I understand takes precedence over academic achievement in some employment fields. And second, it teaches us to be aware of the potential social and environmental threats that you can creatively address as a group. Create a culture that eliminates discrimination and prejudice, as they can hold you back from achieving your bigger goals, not only in your professional pathway, but your everyday interaction. Your goal should be about building and strengthening relationships, and if indifference shows its unpleasant face, call it out in a respectful manner. Fostering meaningless biases only brings about long-term stress and anxiety about things you cannot change by yourself. Remember, eliminating any form of discrimination starts with you. Wellness. Mahatma Gandhi once said, and I quote, "It is health that is the real wealth and not pieces of gold and silver," unquote. And as you reflect on that, please train yourself to manage your priorities. Do not take work home. I know that it is easier said than done, but if work continues to impose on majority of your time outside of working hours, then you deny yourself the joy of truly living. Surround yourself with people who will lift you up and genuinely be happy for you when you succeed, and vice versa. Learn to hold your tongue in the most frustrating of times, as the words that leave your lips generates its own devastating manifestations on the wellness of those around you, and in most cases, it is the people we love. Attitude: when you wake up in the morning, choose to be happy, as that sets a foundation of how your day is going to play out. Happiness is a choice, and it is not captured through the affirmations or actions of others. It comes from within. Despite the miserable situations we are cornered with some days, we can always choose to be happy. Psychologists have stated that relationships are key to long-term happiness. Reevaluate. At some point, you might have to reevaluate yourself, whether it be upskilling for better opportunities within your organization, a yearning for a better spiritual footing, building healthier relationships, and even the possibility of changing careers. But whatever the case may be, just remember, the most valuable contribution you can make is being respectful to one another. Lastly, diligence. Do not work hard, do not just work hard, but work smart. Be a problem solver, and if you help create a problem, be quick to come up with a solution. Be accountable to the most minute part of your work, and you will conscientiously create an awareness and prowess for the most complex tasks. Learn to actively listen than just hearing. Learn to analyze situations and not just take them for the way they're presented. And learn to share your ideas as much as you take and incorporate them in your professional and personal growth. Finally, I am deeply honored to have been given this opportunity to speak for and on behalf of the graduating class of 2019. I hope that your journey was as intense, challenging, mind-numbing, body-aching, sleep-deprived, and yet rewarding as it should be for higher education, because getting to this point is a luxury that is not accorded to everyone. I leave you with these wise words from the late Dr. Maya Angelou, and I quote, my mission in life is not to merely survive, but to thrive, and to do so with some passion, some compassion, some honor, and some style," unquote. All the very best in your future undertaking, graduates. Thank you very much for your attention, and remember, no one ever works in isolation, so please be kind to one another. We're Naga, and God bless us all.